This is the 37th Annual CALLERLAB Convention, 2010, and this is March the 30th. We are in Niagara Falls, New York, the last time I checked, and we welcome you to the Showmanship session. Anybody notice anything about this session so far this morning? Anybody notice anything about what's been happening as you have been here? Some of you have been here early, even before we were. I mean, and please, as we go along here, I'd love to have you use the microphone. So, Corbin, that's good. Corbin could pass the mic. All right, good man. So Corbin's going to tell us what he's noticed since he's been here at the session, or he's going to pass the mic to one of you so that you can tell us what's been happening here at the session this morning. And for those of you on the recording, we want to let you know that we had started the Showmanship session early on, way before you even yeah. That's right. That's right. Anybody have any guess of what's been transpiring since that we've been here? Some of you were actually here and sitting in your chairs. Skip, you guys were here before even we came in. I thought you guys were here from the last session still listening, but you were actually here early. John, you were here early too. So anybody notice? Anybody want to volunteer what was going on? You just want me to tell you. You're on? Okay. We got Corbin. Give us the microphone.
Don Bachelor, Massachusetts. You're interacting with everybody before the event starts.
He's right. Now, we each played 3 different roles. Anybody want to guess the role that Tom's been playing?
Curly.
Good. On the microphone. Raise your hand. All right. This is Bear Miller from Colorado. Bear?
I'll skip my own introduction then, but Mr. Miller in the corner, my twin, has been reacting like he's not real happy and just sitting in the corner being a wallflower. He's pretty much had a frown on his face.
Absolutely. Good guess. Tom basically has been sitting there like he could care less about being here. He really doesn't want to. He's just got that look, and there's a lot of times on the way to a dance, that's the Tom says, for the recording, Tom says that's the truth. He could care less. He really doesn't even want to be here. He's got other things to do, whatever. How many of you have felt that way at some point going to a dance? You think, the last thing I want to do tonight is call a dance. And on the way especially, okay? I'm sure some of you have. On the other hand, anybody know what my role was?
The happy guy.
Yeah, the happy guy, the greeter. I'm passing out things, talking with everybody, catching names, that kind of thing. Showing my teeth. Son, I've sat in the chair a lot for these teeth. Oh, what a guy. On cue, one of our attendees today was assigned to make a paper airplane and throw it up. And this was a great paper airplane, okay? So throughout the session, if you get a little chance you see somebody nodding off, just kind of throw that paper airplane on. Okay? All right. I also mentioned to most of you that if you wanted to, on the flip side of your handout, if you get bored, you can play tic-tac-toe on the flip side of this handout. Okay? Oh, that's right. And I wanted to introduce one of my panelists tonight. This is Mr. Tom Miller. This is really pretty good. I really like this. Corbin, didn't you have something to do with this? Isn't there a story that goes behind this? This is a fantastic picture of Tom Miller. The others, it says, "Come on, Tommy boy. You're in DVD Hall in 2 minutes," and he's got one hair on the top of his head. There's a little picture, a character of a guy. It says, "Pennsylvania State Convention roommates." There's a story about this.
There's 2 stories, but it would take up your whole session.
My 2 panelists this morning are Randy Dougherty, who has been dressed for the occasion. And Randy's got a great shtick. Have you ever seen Randy's shtick that he does? He's got lots of shticks, but this happens just to be one of his shticks. But it's funny. He pulls it off well. He manages to make it go. Even in foreign countries, he managed to make this go okay. So we were in Japan, and he had everybody just laughing their heads off. And good man. Anyway, trying to pull his boots on. I love that. Anyway, I'm going to pass this microphone on over to Tom Miller in a minute. I want to give a little bit of an overview about showmanship. So as we have seen thus far, showmanship begins from the time you walk in the hall, and if you can get there early enough to greet your dancers coming in, it sets the tone. You set the tone with your energy level. And if you're having a good time, or you can at least be sincere and greet those dancers coming in and get to know them by names, that's a huge part of it. That's part of showmanship. Because showmanship is a skill. It is a skill at creating an atmosphere and creating fun in an evening. And it can be your type of fun, because all of us have a little bit different way that we put things together. And whether we borrow things from one another and and learn things from one another and help it shape your own type of showmanship. It's all part of the package. There's a word called shtick. Shtick. I think I said that right. Shtick. And it's all of us have our own shtick, our own way of creating fun, creating the atmosphere at the dance. And it begins from the moment you walk in there. Now, there's a number of levels of showmanship. And as I said, before the event, during the event, and after the event. There's showmanship that involves the type of choreography you might be using. There's showmanship that involves a particular singing call, presentation, and a little bit of fun when you do something in a singing call or a patter call. But we're going to pass this on over. I'm going to give it to Tom here first and let Tom talk a little bit about showmanship. So, Tom Miller, how about a nice hand?
I have to apologize to some of the people that had come up to me when I was setting up here because I kind of really gave them the cold shoulder, and they kind of went back to their seats like, geez. And this is something, we take a look at what happened even before we got to the point of starting our session is setting that presence before we get to our dance. If you're going in to a dance with a chip on your shoulder, something that happened at home with your kids, grandkids, spouse, whatever it is, or your car broke down, or you didn't like what you had for dinner, and you take that into the dance, it's gonna really change the mood of that dance throughout the evening because it's gonna stick with you. And this is one of the things that we as entertainers, showmanship, need to walk into a hall leaving everything else behind because our main concern, of course, is the dancers. And we can do ways that Mike was doing of walking up, introducing yourself, get acquainted and so forth. But we can't do that if we get to the hall 5 minutes beforehand. We have to be to that hall early. And when I say early, I'm looking at 30 minutes. Sometimes that doesn't happen because of traffic. Well, I don't have that problem in Pennsylvania. We just got to get around the Amish buggies before we get to our dance, and we're fine. I mean, we don't have no 6-lane highways, and most of my dances are within 15 minutes. But even so, I'm still at the dance at least a half an hour, maybe 45 minutes beforehand, even at my club dances, because I want to be there if anybody has any questions, especially if they're new students and so forth. So I like to get there early, get my equipment set up, make sure all the boxes are put away, and make sure everything looks nice around it, and so that I look like the professional. Because we need to look like the professional. That's part of the first steps of being a showmanship. But like Mike says, even before we get to that dance, it starts with the phone call that we get for bookings. Yeah, what do you want? We can't answer the phone with that kind of an attitude of what do you want. It starts right as we take our first pick up of the phone and taking that booking. Because those people are going to remember that happy voice. So there's a whole lot of things that we need to look at as showmanship. We all think showmanship is on the stage and entertaining and things like that. That's a big part. But we have to take and build the foundation up to that point. Getting to the dance, get to know the officers of the club. Know the officers of the club before you get there. Know what kind of hall you're calling in. Make sure that there's a table. Make sure there's electricity. Make sure to see if you need an extension cord. That's all part about being showman because that makes you look like the professional. All right? So what happens is that if you don't get there with an extension cord, you're going to have somebody now find an extension cord. And so that depends on a dancer or maybe another caller or maybe the score, the church you're calling in. So what does that show these people? That you didn't come prepared. You weren't a good Boy Scout. Was you ever a Boy Scout? Was you ever a Boy Scout? Really? Neither was I. Anyway.
You're a brownie.
That's not right.
I didn't say it into the mic.
Repeat that for the tape. Somebody yelled that Tommy was a brownie.
That was from, my name's Bear Miller. I said that.
That was Bear Miller, and he said that. But anyway, what? Shh. You don't have a microphone.
Here we go.
I thought they got rid of the Concorde. That was a big airplane. Anyway, showmanship starts from the get-go, guys. And the stage appearance and how you're dressed, how you look, if your hair is combed, if you have hair. You know? Okay. And, so it's making sure that you look nice. I'm a big guy, so I got to work a little bit harder at it. And so, Chris, you okay? Are they working? Perfect. All right. There you go. So, as being a big guy and so forth, I got to work harder at what I wear and how I present myself and so forth, and make sure that people can see me from where they're standing. So I want to make sure that I'm just not heard, that I'm seen as well. The boots being clean, the shoes being clean, the pants not being tore at the bottom, one boot on, one boot off type thing. Make sure everything's tucked where it's supposed to be tucked. Make sure that I keep all my hands out of my pocket because it just doesn't look good. And if you're a person that likes to have your hand in your pocket and you have a whole lot of change and you rattle your change all the time and you're standing in front of people as you're calling, it doesn't look very pleasant as you're doing that. So you put that across the dancers as not being a very good showmanship. Well, maybe from that angle, it might be a good showmanship for some, but it's just not good to do that. It's not good to stand here like this with your hand down along the side like that. It's not good if you have an itch to take care of the itches in front of people. You want to, and I'm being very serious about this. We don't think of this as showmanship, and as we're calling, things happen as we call. There might be a bug flying around, and all of a sudden you suck in the bug, and you got to be careful of how you do all this stuff, because if you have a fly and things like that, they don't know what's up there. Things happen on a stage for a reason. Things happen behind you. Will you guys stop? All right. So even before we get to the calling side of it, we need to look on how we present ourselves. Now, if I'm on a low stage, and I'm pretty much eye level with the dancers, then I'm going to feel a little bit more comfortable, just because there's a barrier that the people in the back can't see me do so I can get away with a little bit more stuff. But if I'm on a stage that's about yay high, then I'm a little bit higher than that, then you're going to stick out like a sore thumb. Everything you do on that stage and everything you do with your stage of presence is going to be very visual to these people. So knowing on how you present yourself with your clothing and your attire and dress the part is really, really important. Now, the question is what we do between tips and so forth. Do we go outside and have a cigarette? Do we go and sit in a corner like I was doing over here, not bothering anybody? Of course not. We have to go out and sell ourselves, making sure everybody's having a good time. And probably the best one that comes to mind is Marshall Flippo. Look at Flippo when he goes around. By the time he gets around the room the second time, he knows everybody. And he kissed all the girls probably twice. And the thing of it is that that's just Flippo. That's what he does. So you need to go out and interact with those people. Now, grant you're not going to be able to interact with everybody that's there, because if there's rounds, some of those people just doesn't dance the squares, but they do the rounds as well. So you might not get a chance. That's why it's important to get to the dance early and stay late. Don't worry about tearing down your equipment right away. Get off of the stage and greet the people goodbye, say goodbye to them, because that might be your only chance that you get to say thanks for coming to those people. So what do you need, buddy? That's part of it. Business cards, letterheads. Is that what you were trying to tell me? Oh. Here's Randy's business card. It has Dirty Dancing on it. Excuse me, just a minute. Pass me my glasses. This is Randy's business card. It has Dirty Dancing on it. Has Dirty Dancing on it. So business cards and is important to have as a showmanship and so forth. If someone comes up for a business card and you don't have one, what's the next thing you have to do is write down everything on a piece of paper, and how professional is that? So there's a big avenue that we need to look at, guys, as showmanship. Now, how many has ever think of showmanship starting at home with a phone call? How many has ever thought that? Absolutely. It's important. How many think of showmanship being between the tips that you call and talking to the people? How many think that you need to go and know the presidents of the club? You know who you need to be friends with more so than anybody else is the treasurer. Mike?
How many think that showmanship starts on your computer when you get your email? It's huge when you get a request for someone to ask you to come to a dance. Because how many of you get requests or inquiries by email these days? I mean, almost all of us do. A lot of our conversation is not on the phone anymore; it's by email. And one of the first things you can say back is, "I really thank you for the invitation to call for your club." And right off the bat, tell them, thank you for the invitation to call for your club. You know, I have the following dates open, or I'm sorry I don't have any of these dates open, but please think of me when you're booking in 2012. Something like that. It's just, that email that goes back to them is huge, and it says, and thanks again for thinking of me. And that's it. You know, it's really easy and really simple to do, and as Tom said, it starts way before.
Bear Miller, and just saying it in a timely manner, respond to that as quickly as you can, because that makes a huge difference to people instead of sitting on email for 2 weeks.
Yeah, how many of you have heard that, guys, thanks for calling me back, or thanks for sending me back an email? Because I guess a lot of us aren't very timely about taking care of that. So take care of that business early. That's part of showmanship, too.
One of the things that you may want to think about, too, is that when you do a dance, and sometimes you have the opportunity to take dancers with you to a festival or a Saturday night dance and so forth. And now it's time that they take the refreshment break and you have the opportunity to actually sit down with people and to have a conversation. What I try to do is I tell the dancers that travels with me, listen, I may not sit with you when it comes to refreshment time because I get to see you every week. You know, and tell them that these people here are the ones that book me. I need to spend some time with them, because the more time that you spend with the dancers, the better it is to build that relationship, to get back, to maybe get a return booking to that club, because the more positive things is, the better it is. Any kind of negativity, whether you got to be careful with the group after the dance if you're going to go out and have a couple of drinks and so forth. Just be careful. Don't saturate yourself in a whole lot of drinks. And be careful of the jokes that you tell. I mean, that's a completely different avenue of showmanship. I might be able to stand up here and tell a joke and get away with it. Randy might stand up here and tell a joke, and you guys would go, oh. Jerry Helt would stand up here, and everybody would say, Jerry, please stand up so we could see you. And then he would tell a joke, and in Jerry's fashion, he would be able to get away with it. So what might work for us might not work for you, and what works for you might not work for us. So we got to be really careful on when we present our jokes, or we do any kind of little joke-telling thing over the microphone or amongst people that we're sitting with and sharing some friendship. All right? Any questions at this point? Everybody okay? Okay, we'll see you next year. We'll come back and revisit some things, all right? We'll come back and talk about things, and all right?
All right, thank you, Tom. Thank you very much. Anytime during the session, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, whatever, let us know. We actually have some callers here that have presented the showmanship session in the past. Jerry Helt has a phenomenal handout that's available at the CALLERLAB office about showmanship. Skip, you and Tony had a session, I believe, a couple of years ago, and had a great handout. John, I think, have you done this session? I'm thinking, but we do have some great handouts that are available at the home office. And if you're ever looking for a subject, and you want a handout, contact the home office, and they usually can email you the list or the packet of handouts that they have in their file. Okay. Next we're going to hear from Randy Dougherty. Randy, you want to talk a little bit about showmanship? Here we go.
Thank you, Mike. I like to break down my showmanship into 3 basic categories: the musical showmanship to the show, the choreographical part that you can make showmanship, and then I guess what I'm noted for is the theatrical type showmanship, where I use props and wigs and whatever I have. I was never involved with drama in high school.
Hello? Yeah, I'm busy right now. Can't you deal with it? All right. Tom, I'll call him back on this.
All right. This is a long distance here. Anyway, I forgot where I was. So there's the theatrical part, the choreographical part, the musical part. The musical part is being able to use harmony. This guy, I love working with him. He's very witty. He has a perfect harmony just about. Using your voice, getting that falsetto type voice or putting a growl into it. I have to work with my sister now and then. And she's a yodeler. And it's hard to compete against people that yodel and have cleavage. That's just, I don't know what it is. But using the musical part with like a key change or something that's got a real neat rhythm to it, a 6/8. A lot of you never bought a song that I recorded. I wish you would, because it only sold 2 copies, my sister and my mom. And it's called Lucky, Lucky, Lucky Me on Aussie tempos. And it's got a 6/8, 2/4 rhythm to it. And it's kind of an Irish jig with an Italian flavor that was recorded in Australia. So, take a look at the music and feature things that are really, really good. This song is a Michael Jackson song. And I use it when that's not Michael Jackson. Where'd Michael, yeah, this is Michael Jackson, isn't it? Yep. I always wear this glove when I call this one. How many people have heard this? This is Billie Jean, original Michael Jackson. And I don't try to imitate Michael Jackson, but just because I put this glove on, the people are watching me the whole time. Every once in a while, I do a little moon dance across the hall or in front of the stage. Where you stand on the stage, if you got the table in front of you, to me, that's like a barrier. Putting the table off to the side. These are the little fine points that Tom was talking about. Your body posture, the way you stand. If somebody comes up and you got your arms full like this, just that little gesture, even though you're listening to them talk and you have your arms crossed like that, you're sending negativity out to these people. And when you come up to somebody and you shake their hands and there's somebody else that you're watching going by, hi Tom, how you doing? Look them in the eye. Shake their hand as if they're there. It feels kind of like a fish grip here. Grab that hand. Look them in the eye. When you approach people, that's showmanship. Don't put these gestures and body motions to your negativity part of it. Put out the positive part. I like to use that Billie Jean. When I use this down in Texas now and Arizona, which I do a lot of my calling in the retirement areas, the older people, they love this song. And they get into it. Oh, yeah. And you have to be careful what you're going to call with it. You got to be able to get over Michael's voice. This one is Mission Impossible. Okay, everybody turn and face your corner. Join both hands with them. Repeat after me. Your mission is to get you through this next tip. If you or any of your armed force are captured or killed, the Secretary will disavow any knowledge of your existence. This tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Then I play it, and they get a little bit of fun out of it. This is the non-traditional thing, but it's also part of showmanship. What kind of music that you use. I picked up just St. Patrick's Day. This one here. Ricky Skaggs, Crossing the Brainy. Perfect day. I had a dance on St. Patty's Day. And this is how I started it off with. Little Irish jig type feeling. And I can't even sound Irish even though I have a name like Dougherty. Oh, buddy, your partner. You're corner down too. You circle left the lead of you. Nice little piece, and they get into the feeling of the St. Patty's Day. The music that you use can be a big thing. The choreographical value that you put in. We were talking about the asymmetrical stuff yesterday. A little bit of that can go a long way. How you put the choreography together with neat get-ins and get-outs, that's part of showmanship too. But I guess the thing that I do the best, I'm not sure I'm the best at it, but I do try a little bit of it, is using props. And this one here, as soon as I put these glasses on, I start smiling a lot, and I do my Ray Charles. And I do Blueberry Hill to it. And I start swaying, and I'm really just up there just kind of doing my Ray Charles thing. I remember one of the conventions, I was doing Ray Charles. Actually, I was doing Willie Nelson. I was doing Willie, the first part of the song, with every bit of intentions of switching from Willie to Ray. And the round dance, or not the round dance, I think it was an exhibition guy, he come up and undid the cord from my CD. and I was just getting into Ray. I was just getting ready to go, and he unplugged the music. Now, the voice was still working, but the music was gone. And I was swaying back and forth, and I'd say, I know I'm blind, but I think I'm going deaf, too. This song is a mountain recording, and it's called Grease Lightning. I was looking for a piece of music that had some really good guitar stuff, because I got a blow-up guitar, blow it up on stage. People are watching, wondering, what the heck is he doing with that? I just kind of put this stupid hat on, sunglasses, and I just love this. And in the beginning, you heard the guitar licks, but in the middle, it's got a really good part. Grease lightning. Here's where the grand swear comes, and I get off the stage. Of course, I never overdo anything. But I spent quite a bit of time trying to find the right song to use the blow-up guitar and get the guitar licks to go. That song is what I came up with. Here's another one that every year you got to come up with something new. You know, I did the drunk forever, and now when you go to a town, they want the drunk every time. And I've done drinking champagne so many times in my life that I actually think I'm drunk sometimes. But this is, my new stick was this particular one. And actually, Tom must have seen me do it. This is the Blue Star. And it's called Hello, My Baby. No, that's not it. Where did my baby go? Well, we'll talk about this one. This one is the Freddie Fender song.
We have buckwheat now at the mic.
Side space grand square. If she brings you happiness, then I wish you all the best. It's your happiness that matters most of all. Oh, ladies, chain, go cross the ring. Get chain about, I'm gonna get a sing. I'll be there before the next teardrop falls. And I go through this. The middle part, when I get to the middle break, I usually try to do Estaré contigo cuando itris estaré. And I have no idea what I'm saying, but I just say a bunch of Spanish, or what is close. And they laugh, just like what you guys. When I get to the very end, I'm all out of Spanish. So I go, margarita, taco burrito. Wait a minute, I got to get my food all together here. Anyway, Sofia, it's hibernating. Don't let it hibernate. Don't let it hibernate. Anyway, that's one of my new songs that I've been trying to work on, and it works good. The Hello, My Baby song, I just get up there, and about halfway through, I do it standard. Halfway through, I get a phone call from my mom, and they're doing Grand Square. I say, hello, Mom. No, I don't know where Dee Dee is. No, she's old enough. She can watch herself now, Mom. Mom, I'm kind of busy. Can I call back? I'll put you on hold, Mom, okay? I'll put you on hold. And I continue calling. And, of course, every time I can, I go back and I tell Mom again, put you on hold. At the end, I'm back talking with Mom, doing Grand Square again. The green button. And at the end, when I get to the end of the song, I interrupt Mom again, put her on hold, and then I start talking like this. I say, hello? Yeah? Why are you calling me? Well, I'm sorry you went to jail, but, you know, that's the way you go. When you do bad things, hang around the wrong people, that's what's going to happen. Yeah? That's too bad. Well, I'm kind of busy now. I'll get back to you, all right? Then I go back to Mom, and at the end, I finally say, hey, Mom, you won't believe who called me. Martha Stewart just called me. And I get a little bit of a laughter out of that. Of course, the other one that I like to do, and this is an old one I get a lot of requests for, is working in the retirement villages. I tell them sound enhancement is available. They don't have to quit dancing, and I show them the newest and improved hearing enhancement. And I tell them they can find these. I will sell them to them, but it's a very inexpensive way of doing hearing enhancement. You can't believe what I sound like now. It's hibernating. You let it went to hibernate again. Try to do your job up there. This song that I do is "Baby Don't Get Hooked on Me," and I start with just the ears, and of course a little bit of head shaking, and the ears will wiggle pretty good. And towards more of the song as I go, I get uglier, of course. And the last line of the song is, "Baby, baby, don't get hooked on me, 'cause if you do, I'll just set you free. And I'll just use you and I'll set you free." And then it goes on, and pretty soon I start getting uglier. Baby, baby, don't get hooked on me, 'cause I'll just use you and I'll set you free. And when the shirt comes up and I start a scratching, women start just gathering around the front. And then at the end, this is what does it. Anyway, my computer went down, so I can't use the music. But this song, "Baby, Baby, Don't Get Hooked on Me," is this stick. And so I get into the theatrical part of it, and it wasn't because, I guess it was because I couldn't sing. Mom always told me Dee Dee was a better singer. Somebody like Mike or Tom, somebody like Mike and Tom, who have good singing voices, they won't probably do the theatrical part. I do it because, I get by with my singing, but when I work with these guys, and I do singing calls, and they do, the background harmony stuff. Oh, God. Those are not fake either, are they? Tom just showed his false teeth and his bridge work. Show the whole group if you're going to show everybody. Anyway, some people won't feel comfortable doing these kinds of things. Dee Dee never used to do the theatrical part of it until we started doing after parties. Now, Mr. After Party back there, Jerry Helt, he is loaded with all kinds of neat things. And sometimes he's just loaded. Yeah. That's when I come out at night. The after party, I feel sometimes is where I show my best showmanship off at. Doing skits, pantomimes, stuff like that. And that's part of showmanship, too, to really excel at what you're good at. If I tried to do, one of the songs that Tom did that he sounds like a songbird on, I wouldn't win. I would not try to emulate that. And that's the other thing. You can't come up. There's a lot of people doing my drunk thing. Not that I copyrighted it, but there's a lot of drunks going around trying to call. Yeah, that's what it was. A lot of callers trying to be drunk. Anyway, don't copy something. Take something, come up with something original that fits you, that you're comfortable with, and put your showmanship into it. See what else I got over here listed underneath here. Do I have any other? Oh, I think the battery must be going dead. Anyway, I think I've talked long enough. Mike, do you want to do some questions, answers, or you got some more stuff?
All right, let's do some questions and answers. Jerry, come on up and pick up the mic. There's a master show.
Jerry Helt. I would like to know where you draw the line on gimmick and showmanship.
They can come together, and they can be part of one another. I think that sometimes showmanship is a little gimmick here or there, or maybe a little shtick there. Can you do too much of this? Absolutely. Can you? Yeah, but let Randy comment.
Once I do the Before I Met You thing, before the last teardrop falls, you do that once, during the season, and you're done with it. Even though they'll come up and request, because there's always somebody that newly arrived that didn't see it, and they heard about it, and they want you to do it. You can't. Wait a whole season before you do it again. And especially when you're the local caller and you're the home club caller, you have to have more ammunition to do those kinds of things. You can do one of these kinds of things a night, and that's max. So try to be original and come up with new stuff. So as far as choreographical-wise, the gimmicks and things that I use, again, sprinkled in lightly is the thing. I do a lot of unsymmetrical stuff during my calling, and the people like it, but they don't want a whole tip of it. Just now and then is all it's going to take. I do have one dance a week, and it's kind of weird. It's the biggest dance I have, and I do a whole morning of Wacky Wednesday, it's called, and it's all unsymmetrical choreography, completely. And it's my biggest dance. I don't know if it's that choreography or the thing that we give donuts away in the morning. I really don't know. But it is a fine line that you walk. You know that, Jerry. And again, sprinkled lightly.
Yeah, Jerry's really brought up a good point, because there's not only the theatrical gimmicks and sprinkled in lightly. There have been callers, I know that I've discussed with dancers about a particular caller that I thought was doing a great job, and they said, yeah, but in between the tip, he's always going in and changing clothes, and he spends all his time doing that and doing these costumes and stuff, and we just want to dance, So you can way overdo it, and that's can be a major issue. I once did a dance with another caller, and we did costume changes, because there were themes in every tip, and I spent between every tip in the closet changing clothes. That's the last time I'm doing that. And besides that, he smoked. It was really hard. So you had a cigarette in the closet with me, and no, so I don't do that anymore. But it's not only the theatrical gimmicks; it's the choreographic gimmicks. Some of these memorized asymmetrical things. There are a few callers like Randy, like Vic, like some of these guys that can get away with a lot more asymmetrical choreography than some of us can. But the bottom line is, it's neat stuff to have in your arsenal, or in your toolbox, as we would call it. So sprinkle those things lightly. I would invite every one of you to keep a file, and as you go through your calling career, to keep a file that has all your after-party things in a file, and start collecting them. Every time you hear a joke or see a joke that comes over the internet, or you read something in Reader's Digest, or you see something that happens on the television, you see a little piece of shtick, write it down and stick it in this file. You can use it now, you might use it later, whatever. It's just nice to have a file that you keep putting things in, so when it comes up that all of a sudden you've got an after-party to do, you can go into that file and you can put that down and use those things. Corbin?
Mike, one of the things to keep in mind, too, is something that went over really well 25 years ago might not go over so well nowadays, just the way culture and politically correct stuff. Excuse me.
Absolutely. Thank you, Corbin.
Francois de caller. How about public? Do you get some of your dancers involved in your, bring them on stage and say, okay, you're going to do the next call kind of thing, or that kind of stuff?
I think it's I have a one song that I do that you start doing the song, you realize, I really need some backup for this song. This song needs doo-wops. You pull the needle, or pop your space bar or the needle off, and you say, don't you think this needs doo-wops? And you pull somebody, particularly somebody that's just sitting down or something, you pull them up on stage and they do doo-wops with you to the song. You can have a little fun, and it brings those people up on stage and gets those people involved. Yeah, that's a great thing to do. Involve your dancers, and that's huge. The other thing I really think that there's some callers that are just masters about talking to people on the floor as they dance. Whereas the caller, you see things that happen in a square where somebody gets saved by somebody, and you go, good catch, Sandy, and she smiles, and the other guy that, it's fun to see things and let them know you're paying attention to them, and talk to those dancers by name. Get them talking back to you. We all do this flutter wheel and a hot cha-cha or whatever. You get them talking back to you. Can it go a little bit of that can go a long way? Absolutely. And particularly if you're calling the same dancers every time, and every time you do a flutter wheel with a hot cha-cha or a flutter wheel and a hot dog or whatever, after a while that gets to be a little bit much. So sprinkle that in too. Again, you get to the point where you can do too much of this, and then it becomes not about the dancing anymore. It becomes not about them interacting with each other, and it's not about them and the music and the dance experience. It draws too much attention to you. So you're the catalyst for them having fun, and very often you can set the mood and set the tone and put in the little sprinkled in the little things that make a big difference. So. the question is, what about kids? Would you explain that?
You're calling in a school. You're dealing with kids. Is there anything a part of your showmanship that the kids like to see or do?
Tom, you want to talk about this? Because Tom calls a lot in the schools.
One thing.
Fran has to go now, and so Fran, I'm sorry that if you take your airplane with you. Okay.
I'm leaving on a jet plane. Good catch. I do have a school program, and my main concern, more so than the showmanship side of it, is planting the seed that needs to be planted. They need to have that good experience of square dancing, more so than having the records or the 8 tracks or whatever they might have at the schools. I don't do too many singing calls with them throughout the school, but throughout the time that I'm there. But at the latter part or the last day is the day that I'll have them come up, and I'll stand beside them, and they'll call. And I might get some of the people that doing Jimmy Buff at Margaritaville. That's pretty much a favorite with anybody. So some of the girls will come up, and they'll stand around me, and I have a microphone for them, and they'll sing Margaritaville. And so to that degree is where I get them involved. I don't get them involved until the very last day, but because I'm mainly there just to plant that seed. Because the experience that they need to have is a good one, and I don't want to be walking in taking that away from them or their experience of having a good experience of square dancing, me standing up there and kind of singing and things like that. That's not what I'm there. I'm not there to showboat myself. I'm there to make sure that square dancing is done properly to these dancers. And at the end, that's when I get them involved. So you have to just be careful when you're working with kids, especially the little ones, because the little ones, 3 or 4 years down the road, they're not going to remember it anyway. So. You have a comment?
Yeah, I do. I get repeat performances now that I'm out of Arizona, but I've done the same elementary school, 4th through 6th grade, annual party for this lady teacher that never knew anything about square dancing, found some record somewhere at a garage sale and taught her 4th, 5th, and 6th graders how to do the singing calls. And they had favorite ones that they loved. And she taught them pretty much correctly, but she didn't have the right resources, so they promenaded always the wrong way around, which when she said, we'll put this record on so you could see what they could do the very first time I went. I think I've done it 6 or 7 years now. And I watched them. They pretty well were smiling and jumping and happing and having a really good time. But at the end of the evening, I put Pink Cadillac on, which they had not heard or done before. And I have these glasses that have the lights that flash and all of that. Every year I go back, the kids remember that, and they request Pink Cadillac. One year I went and I did my Elvis Presley thing. Kids don't even know who Elvis Presley is anymore, those kids that I was working with. So it didn't go over as good as I wish it would have. I don't do that anymore, but I still showboat a little bit sometimes. But it's, each one of these things it's a different situation, as you know, if you're doing a one-nighter. I do a lot of Mormon tracks where the kids are out for 3 or 4 days living as if they were pioneers. They got to tote their own water, no electricity. They bring sleeping bags, and they experience the way the pioneers traveled. And then I'm supposedly the entertainment that's the highlight at the end of their week. These kids are so tired they can hardly stand up, and you're supposed to entertain them. And some of the tracks are really, really tough to do. And usually they're way out in the desert or way up on a mountaintop, and they got no dance hall, they got no electricity, so you got to take everything in on a 4-wheel quad, and you got to have a generator and all of that. So each one is challenging.
Yes, Jerry. I think each, as both Tom and Randy have said, each situation is a little bit different, and you might approach it depending upon the age too. Jerry?
Well, I'm on a mission. There's a call that callers use. They get an effect from it, which is a false effect. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. And it's Yellow Rock. I have never called a Yellow Rock in my life. I don't plan to. And I think when you call Yellow Rock, you get a false thing from these people. A lot of people are a little bit jealous about hugging their partners and somebody else's partner. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Here's my opinion of Yellow Rock. I don't call it very much. There's some places you can call it, and they're all hugging, and they're hugging their corner, and they're all into it, and you realize this is a group that has a caller that probably has called Yellow Rock all the time, and these guys are used to it. They do, so you can get away with it. Like I say, I personally don't use it an awful lot. I had an experience one time where I had a square dance class. It was a new class. I called the first 2 weeks, but I had to be absent the third week. And I had a caller come in, and the caller taught yellow rock and blue rock and orange rock and all the rocks. And I came back in the fourth week, and I had more than half of my class was gone. Your new dancers, this is just a whole new thing to new dancers. They're just not used to having any kind of, their physical space is about an arm's length away. And you are making dancers by your command invade each other's personal space. Now, most square dancers are okay with this, but there's a good deal of them, particularly new dancers, that you really, really are treading on thin ice, and to the point where with a new dancer, you can turn them off completely. They say, these people are a little nuts. I don't know what's with these guys. And if you have dancers out there that are a little, they're not so huggable. You women probably have had those experiences where I gotta hug that guy, or you could just go, not me, But the bottom line is it's one of those things that and some callers can get away with it, and other callers, don't go there. And so, Jerry, I appreciate this comment because I think it's something that everybody needs to be aware of, and depending on your group, depending if you're the caller for them every week, you've known these guys, you've grown with them, you've been with them for years, it could be an entirely different story. But when you walk into a place, particularly the first time you walk into some place, I'd tread really lightly on that one. Randy?
One of the situations that I got asked for school, the people that hired me specifically said, please don't show the kids Yellow Rock. Now, this is a non-dancer that knew what a Yellow Rock was because the caller prior to me coming in must have used it. And they specifically said, do not teach it. Never in a school. And somebody did that. When I have a group of dancers and I've taught them the whole basics list or the mainstream list, it's not until towards the end of the class when I know they go out in the real world that they start dancing, and all of a sudden I haven't shown them Yellow Rock and somebody does it, they can get hurt. And I usually try to explain that it's like Yellow Rocking your 96-year-old grandmother. Do a sneak attack from the side. Go in and just do a little side hug instead of a full frontal bear hug. Because people break their spines doing, there's some really wild people out there that really misuse the Yellow Rock. So if you're one of those people that call it all the time, start thinking about injuries that can happen to people and how much it turns off a lot of people too.
When you're talking about being prepared when you get there, you get a half hour early.
What's your name?
My name is Bear Miller, Denver, Colorado. Running for the Board of Governors this year. I appreciate your vote.
No, that's all right. You didn't have to put that in there.
But I'm dressed for the part. So anyway, during your preparation part, when you get there early, you can find out the feel for a group that you may not have been to before by standing at the door and offering hugs, and you'll find out in a hurry what kind of group it's going to be, so you'll kind of know what's ahead of time. If they're coming up to you greeting you with a great big hug, almost every one of them, it's going to be a group that you can do Yellow Rocks with. It's just sort of that same preparation. The other thing I do when I do a father-daughter Girl Scout night, I never do a Yellow Rock, but I do a Red Rock with their partner because it's their dad. And they love that. So watch which group you're with once again.
One of the things, calling for the handy-capables, we don't have to use Yellow Rock because they just do that automatically. They hugging is just a thing that happens automatically. But, these kids in the handy-capable, we call them kids, they can sense if you don't want to be hugged or anything like that. They can see that you don't want to be hugged, but then they know the people that will give them a hug and so forth. So, and another thing about Yellow Rock, I think, I don't call it. It's pretty rare when I call Yellow Rock, Jerry. And one of the reasons that I quit calling the Yellow Rock was many years ago when I seen a guy pick a lady up off the floor that was probably about 100 pounds, maybe 150 pounds less than he. And she was pretty much had to be taken out and on a stretcher just because when he picked her up, it was one of those kind of picked her up and then jolted her right back down. And that was kind of an eye-opener for myself not to call the Yellow Rock. So it's like Bear says, watch the people. If they're a huggy type club and so forth, I'm not one that walked up to people that I don't know that open arms. I'm one that I need to watch body language and so forth, and I don't make the first move. If I see them coming and they're like this, then I know that I better be ready to embrace or one hug around like Randy said or whatever. So, So Yellow Rocks, you got to be careful with the groups and so forth, especially with the age of dancers that we have now. With broken ribs and shoulders and arthritis and things like that. So, myself personally, to help Jerry along with this, I would really like to see it go away. That's just my opinion.
I think also, though, there's one appealing thing about square dancers, particularly dancers that know each other and have known each other for years, that's one of the things, because we dance, because we wrap our arms around each other and swing and do those kind of things. I mean, it's a different thing. Our personal space as square dancers is much different than people in the outside. I have a lot of my dental patients who are square dancers, and they get up out of the chair and we give each other a big hug, and my staff is just scratching their head, particularly any new staff. They just look at me like, what's going on here, and yeah. I mean, I have this pair of magnifying glasses in the front that we all use now, and I throw them back over my shoulder and I give them a hug so they don't squish my glasses, and it's part of someone that you know for a long time. And in Bear's Club, I know Bear, hell, every time I see Bear, we hug. It's part of our dance that makes this unique, but don't ever force it on it. Make it an optional thing. Do it with their partner, as Tom said. I think it's just, it's one of those things. Think seriously about it and think about it before you call. And as Tom said, be ready to react a little bit. Yes.
Vic Cedar, California. What kind of toothpaste would you recommend? No. Actually, another thing along the lines of the Yellow Rock is there's some callers that get up there, and before every tip, it's like, face your corner, take her by both hands, look her in the eye, and, you say some lovey-dovey kind of thing, make sure you're there for when I need you, sweetie. And to me, that's kind of the same things along the line of the Yellow Rock. It's slightly uncomfortable, and, I can deal with it once a night, but if the guy keeps doing it every tip, it's like, oh. So.
Good point, Vic. I think you think about it, particularly if you're asking the dancers or request them to do something that might make them feel uncomfortable, particularly if they don't know the person. Turn and face your corner and say, honey. I think sometimes that makes people feel uncomfortable. You're forcing them into a situation like that.
Quick story, Corbin Geis, Altoona, Pennsylvania. A few years back, I did a lot of PR trying to get a new club together, and it was a fun night, and we had a lot of people come out, and one of the neighboring clubs came over to help out. And they were very, very touchy-feely, huggy-huggy. And it was a casual club. My club was casual. They came in their full square dance attire. And we had a nice crowd. And the next week, half the crowd was gone. Happens a lot. And that particular Friday, I just happened to be at a Denny's, and I saw a square of the people. They were all friends. And I kind of went up to them, and I said, hey, did you guys have a good time? They said, we enjoyed you, but we did not enjoy. They're too huggy. They're too huggy. And so something here that I worked so hard to get people in the doors, I didn't have anything to do with it. They were just being square dancers who had danced for a long time and just know how to hug. As soon as these new people walked in the door, they were greeting them with hugs, and that's just whoa to people who are not from our world.
Yeah, the dancers can really almost bury you down in Texas, too, because you have a good dance going, and then all of a sudden the word goes out, you have a good dance, and all of a sudden your crowd will double. And then what happens when it doubles is it gets watered down, and you can't go as quick or fast or like you were doing when you had a good crowd, and now you've doubled your numbers, and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to have double the numbers next time, and what happens is a lot of people won't come back, and they've got multiple reasons why. Oh, it got slower, or he eased off on the choreography, or for whatever reason. A lot of them say it was too crowded, we don't want to go there no more, and it really hurts the pocketbook. So the dancer sometimes, and of course, those kind of retirement areas, the gossip that goes on, and the phone lines are so busy. Within 5 seconds, Joe Sawtell, right across the street, he knows what I've called the whole morning. It's just really, really weird. The other thing about, Jerry asked about gimmicks and stuff, how much you can put that in. Again, I look for little gems. I call them gems. Everybody knows I used to be a math teacher, and I always do, the old Ferris wheel, square through 3, swing corner figure. I look for gems like this, where I say square through 12, divide by 6, and add 1. That's a gem to me, and they'll swing the corner. They won't even try to do the math, but then a little bit later I'll say, okay, square through whatever. I think I got to think of what I usually do. I said square through 12, multiply times 2/3, and subtract 5. I think that's comes out to be 3. So, whatever. And they all laugh. And those kinds of things is you can only use that one time during the season or a couple of times or whatever. I do a tip. Remember Vaughn Parrish? He used to do the backwards tip. I don't know how many people say he used to change the first and last letter of all the calls, and he'd call a whole tip of that. Unbelievable. He had to do many, many hours of trying to do that. I got his backward square record, and I couldn't do it. But I did practice doing the words left and right. I try to explain to my people when I go to a foreign country and they have to learn all these English words, I'm going to let you find out what it's like calling Japan or Sweden someplace where it's not their natural language. And I say, I'm just going to ask you to learn 2 words. Instead of saying left every time, I'm going to say zag. And instead of saying right every time, I'm going to say zig. And it has nothing to do with the zigzag family, the advance. I'm just saying Alaman zag with your zag hand, the partner is zig, and a zigzag ran. And I'll do that. Heads lead to the zig and do a zig and zag through and veer to the zag and the couple circulate. And it's different. It's a gimmick. And again, you don't overuse it. I was in Missouri and I tried my zigzag tip and I found out that it wasn't going the way I wanted it to. And of course it was. They were laughing and I said, let me try a different way here. I know most of you are native Missourians here. I said, walk all around the hall hand lady and seesaw around part of the little taw and back to the corner with your left paw, right to the honey go G and haw. And the G and haw is, of course, what they use for mules. And the Missouri mules, a lot of them knew what that was. And I did a whole tip of G and haw instead of right and left. And it went over. It really was funny for them. So those are the kinds of things that I look for. When Vic was saying he doesn't like doing looking at your corner and tell her she's the best thing since sliced bread or whatever, I look for little things like that, but I don't overdo it. I usually say, take your corner in your hand, look her in the eye and say, you're the only reason why I showed up tonight or something. One time a night is all you want to do, those kind of things. But I'm looking for those kinds of things to get a little bit of comedy relief, to get them to smile. Overdoing it, of course, is not going to be the way to go.
Since you're a math major, could you give us something on square root?
Tom?
Oh, boy. Going back to the Yellow Rock and so forth, I had a couple come to my dance one time, actually a club member, and they says, we had the strangest thing happen to us last week, Tom, at a club down the road. And I says, what happened? And they said, well, we were dancing along, and a caller called touch a quarter, and all of a sudden I felt hands touching my backside. And I says, really? And they says, yeah, it was pretty uncomfortable. And then the guy spoke up and says, yeah, I about decked the guy that did it to my wife. He said, he goes, we'll never go back to that club again. And they said, if they ever come here, and I said, if they ever come here, I'll take care of it. Well, it wasn't 2 weeks later, the club, 4 couples come up, and I called touch a quarter, and all of a sudden, and I picked the needle up, and I says, touch a quarter means you take your hand, you hinge. We don't pat and play here. And that was pretty much, I said, you guys can do that in your club, but don't bring that into my arena. This is all part of showmanship, guys. Did they hate me? Probably. Absolutely. Did I save that couple that had that bad experience? Absolutely. They're still dancing. This is all part of showmanship. I'm going to take a few minutes. Randy did where he used props and so forth on singing calls. I like to take a different avenue of singing calls of what we can do and just kind of pick apart a little bit. Randy, if you touch my touchpad there real quick. On the computer. Yeah. Yeah. And hit control space. The one that says control. No, don't hit that one. Oh, great. There goes the pictures of all my wife. There. Control space. Oh, my. Here we go. Let's see if it works. Okay. Restart the space bar. Control space bar. Here we go. Now let's take a look at this song, right? It sounds something like this. Circle out. People see us everywhere. They think that you really care. Men start right and you go one time. Like the alley man, your corner, weave your ring. Well, my hope, my prayer will be someday you'll care for me, but it's only make-believe. And that's how I would start to sing it. I would start it right off the bat. But now in the middle, I would do the Conway Twitty growl type thing. Yeah, before he died. Yeah. Last time I was standing here and he did that, I got it. That's a completely different story. So let's see if we can make this work. So it'll be something like this. See if I can do it. Circle out. People see us everywhere. They think that you really care. Men start right and you go one time. Left alley man, weave your ring with my hope, my prayer will be. So I kind of bring that to the dancers. That's a different kind of a showman than what Randy was doing with props and so forth. Getting the dancers to sing along with you is a different way of presenting a showmanship and so forth. I personally like the love ballads. That's something that I enjoy doing, and sometimes I do mix it up and so forth. And I can. A little bit of Kenny Rogers for you. He works hard to give her all the things she wants to have. Left alley man, go see your own. Alameda left in a wheeler ring. She said, buy me a rose. Call me from work. Open the door for me. What would it hurt? These are the little things I need the most in my life. And if you notice, I'm really not driving the singing call. This is a kind of a song that maybe after a workshop tip, just let them sit back and relax a little bit. That's called Buy Me a Rose on ESP. You need to be wearing that mohawk thing when you do that. Okay, let's see what it would look like.
He's going to need more than a rose.
For the recording, Tom is going to repeat the same song, love song, with a mohawk haircut, tie-dyed mohawk haircut.
He works hard to give her all. See, there's something with the mohawk. Kid Rock. Oh, there it goes. It takes me a half hour to do my hair and 30 seconds to mess up. One hair. Vocally, things that we do vocally is important because we're there to sell not just ourselves but the activity. Circle out. What a beautiful noise. It's got a beautiful sound. Now this is a song here again that you can build. This is what I call a home building song. You start with the foundation, you build yourself right up into the. Jump ahead here. Okay, I'm trying to get to the middle break real quick. Shut up. You didn't even know what in the hell a control bar was. Alright. So when we come and do a song like this, let me see if I can get this again. Randy screwed it up here. Here we go. Circle out. What a beautiful noise. Coming in from my window. The men's storm on the right. You're gonna go one time, alright. Left alley man, a corner girl in a wheeler ring. What a beautiful noise. Hey, it's the sound that I love, and it fits me as well. Like a hand in a glove, yes it does, yes it does. Can you rehook it? My pants is falling down.
For the recording, we were just tightening.
No, it's not for the recording.
No. I just wanted to explain for the recording that Tom was having his belt tightened up to hit the higher notes. And sometimes when you get to a higher note, you may need to tighten up your belt or pull up your britches a little bit. Right?
So we can do showmanship with just a different venue of songs and so forth. Let me do one more here. Randy, what did you do to my computer?
If I can just interject here just a little bit. I've heard callers say, I don't do love songs, or I don't do these kind of songs. If you don't do them, think about picking one and putting it in your toolbox. Again, it's one of those things. Challenge yourself a little bit, because somebody likes a love song. Somebody likes a country song. Somebody likes a something or other, and I think it's nice, again, to have in your toolbox.
François de Marais. which brings me, like, sometimes I listen to the music and I say, oh, this is great music, but the topic is a downer. So reject.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Sometimes the what's the content of the song is kind of bring your dancers down. Minor keys are another one. Think about using minor keys sparingly, because minor keys can kind of tilt dancers a little bit downward. So
we have, we've been blessed now with modern technology that songs that we couldn't do years ago when we put them into our laptops and so forth, that we can now change the pitch and so forth, that we can now adapt that into our program. So we have that opportunity, which is kind of nice. Here's a song that I like. I want you to participate. If you don't participate, I know where you sit for lunch. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Side space, grand square, and everybody singing out. Go into the chapel. Gonna get married. The chapel and gonna get married. My turn. Wiggle out those four-leaf chain and you turn that girl. You chain her back and then you all promenade. Everybody go in to the chapel of love. So, yeah. So, there's something you can get everybody participating in, and you don't have to do nothing. You don't have to, you say side space, grand square. You guys do the work for me. I come back in and do the four-leaf chain. You guys do the work for me. I do the figure. You guys do the work for me. And it's just a different way of being a showman.
You know, sometimes you can be having the worst patter tip in the world, and you can just finish that thing and go, oh, I cannot believe that all happened, and put on a sing-along and pull it right back out. Let them sing and let them just let them sing. There's something therapeutic about dancing and singing, so use that.
Here, I got the microphone. Randy has CDs, and I got to tell you, I have his CD collection, and it is probably the best coaster set that I ever have. I'm telling you, they're just really awesome. The hot cups on top of them my wife loved the set I gave her for Christmas. Yeah, they were awesome. But see, Randy, he has them. If you like skeet shooting and so forth, even if you miss, they already have the hole in them.
Tom Alley, Rochester, New York. The Coast Guard has them on every ship. They're used for signal mirrors for emergencies. The holes right down to up in the planes that are in the sky. They're wonderful.
Anyway, see, Randy, if you would like a CD.
Any comments, questions, suggestions, something you do, something that we've maybe missed or something we haven't covered? Yes, Skip.
I like to do the love ballads, too, and I use my corner. I'll have the men approach their corner, take their hands, and whisper in their ear, I paid him $5 to sing this song just for you.
But again, be careful. Skip might get away with that, and particularly his dancers. He might get away with it. There's things that Skip could do that I probably couldn't do. If I said that, I might get somebody a little bit upset that I was making that comment. So it depends on who you are and what you get away with.
Jerry Helt, I'm curious as to what your feeling is on religious songs.
No, these are really good points. These are really good points.
Let me pass that microphone to Randy, because he has recorded something like
10,000 gospel numbers.
So
even the ones that I didn't put my vocals on, that I suggested as tunes. Most of the songs, Jerry, when we go into a recording session, Jerry Story always wants to do at least one gospel every session we go, and we do 2 or 3 sessions a year. So he has a backlog of a lot of them, and he never lets me actually put my vocals on them. I don't know why, But anyway, the first time I was, I turned full-time caller in 1979. In 1980, I was making my South tour through Atlanta and over to Mobile, Alabama, and Mississippi, and man, I was doing my new gospel number, and it didn't get the same thing that I was hoping I could do up in Detroit or Minneapolis or Milwaukee or wherever. And it didn't take me long. I was still green behind the ears, but I knew I wasn't going to do any more of those kinds of songs when I went through the Bible Belt. They just don't accept it. It's not something that should be done in a dance hall. They sing those songs in church, and that's where they want to sing them at. So you got to be aware of your audience and where you're doing those numbers. But we'll continue recording gospel numbers because they sell. People buying them. So.
I just had the pleasure of working with Randy in Tucson, Arizona back a few months ago, and he says, we had to do an hour together, and he said, what singing code do you want to do? And I said, go ahead and pick one. He says, Somebody Touch Me. And I says, I don't do it. So he said, well, it's pretty easy. And he says it's a great gospel tune. Well, by the end of it, I didn't realize it was a gospel tune because every time I said Somebody Touch Me, he was reaching over and, and I'm like, yeah, somebody touch me. But it's a great song. It really is a good song, and it's on one of his coasters. I mean, one of his CDs. But anyway, I do gospel songs, but I don't do what you call 3 or 4 in the night. Just again, you have to know your group and so forth. There's been times that I have been asked to do gospel all singing call dance, which was a lot of work, just because there's how many tips in a 2-hour dance, and it was all gospel music that I did. So, again, you have to know your audience, and it's something that I don't think you should do every tip and so forth. I appreciate the gospel music, I do. There's some great gospel music out there.
And I think there's different types of religious songs, too. There's songs that are real religious and songs that you could cross the line with somebody that's a little uncomfortable. There's songs that simply say, hallelujah, hallelujah. I hear the voices singing soft and low or something like that. There's different types of tunes. But I agree with Jerry that I think it can be overdone. And I think, again, if you do anything from the microphone that might make anyone in your audience feel uncomfortable, I'd stop and really think about it, okay? If you can somehow introduce it in such a way as this is my, like on a Sunday morning at a weekend festival, sometimes, well, this is going to be our gospel tip, and do a couple singers or something. But again, watch some of the wording on those songs could be offensive or could upset people. So, Paul?
Jerry has an answer to you. I'm from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we're in the Bible Belt area. There's about 3 that I can do. Swing Low, When the Saints Go Marching In, and maybe one other. And the audience pretty well responds to it. You get out of those, and it's touchy. It's real touchy. But they will respond to once a night, twice a night at the most. But you got to space it out. Don't get it all together.
Jerry, good point. Very good point.
And another thing, this doesn't have anything to do with gospel music, but picking your music is important. And one of the things you want to pick is a lot of drinking songs. A lot of things with, like tequila or whiskey or anything like that. I know I recorded a song back a few years ago on ESP. It was called How'd I Wind Up in Jamaica, which was a song about, getting down in Jamaica, getting drinking and staying over and so forth. And the first part was remembered I was out last night. How'd I wind up in Jamaica? I got it right here. Wait, go ahead and do that.
Good. He had mentioned something earlier about Margaritaville, and I would have a hard time doing that in schools myself. I have been called down in schools for something slipping in or something happening that I didn't even catch and wasted away again in Margaritaville. I have a teacher that I know would be on my case in a heartbeat if I was singing Wasted Away in Margaritaville. So,
and see, for me, the phys ed teacher is a Jimmy Buffett fan.
There you go. If they're a parrot head, you got a whole different story.
Yeah.
Okay.
The song says, sign said cold beer, so I pulled in there, pulled up a chair to just have just one. We took a lot of heat just because I said sign said cold beer, and then there was one that I just recorded here back a few months ago. Is People Are Crazy. The words are God is great, beer is good, and people are crazy. And I chose to go into the studio and say God is great, God is good, people are crazy. I recorded it that way. Not necessarily now when I do it out to the dancers. I might do that one time, but I go right back to the original lyrics because that's what the people were hearing on the radio.
I worked in a junior high.
Your name?
Rachel Phillips from California, Groveland, California, but I worked in Modesto. And the school board there has a very strict policy that the kids are not allowed to wear anything, shirts, pants, anything that has anything to do with tobacco, alcohol, drugs, sex. And the school board is very, very adamant about that. They can show their belly buttons in some cases, but they can't wear that kind of stuff. So when I was doing square dancing, I bit my tongue when I did Black Velvet and hoped that nobody understood what it was. But if I were to sing about beer, blatantly like that, one of the little kids in one of the classes out of the 250 kids each day would go home and tell Mom, and Mom would go to the school board and we'd be in trouble.
If it's a piece of music that you like, for instance, let's just say the one I recorded, How Did I Wind Up in Jamaica, it's very simple to say, sign said Coke here, or soda here, or Coke. I like Coke.
Coca-Cola. He means Coca-Cola.
Yeah, I'm trying. Sign says Coca-Cola here. I mean, so, or you know what you could do? 4 ladies chain over and back. And as she's coming back, say, you like Coke? I don't know, but... Make sure it's caffeine free.
We need a question over here. I'll make a comment before he does his. I was at a big festival calling, and I was doing a song that was called Operator, Operator, and the last line is, put Jesus on the line. You got to be really careful of using some of the gospel stuff like that. This guy came up. Obviously, I could tell he was irate about me doing the song. And he really came down on me, really hard and heavy. And he says, you Christians are all the same. And I looked right at him. I said, well, I'm offended by that remark. You're assuming that I'm a Christian. And I said, this is a square dance song. We're a square dance family. We should be open to everything. And we had heated words. And he was assuming something, just like I was assuming that I thought he was probably, from Middle East or wherever, because he looked that way. But you have to be really careful. Sometimes it's worth not doing the song. So you have to be careful. Your comment.
Talking about being careful, Ron Brown, Cicero, New York. From time to time, I volunteer and go into nursing homes. Great thing to do because they just don't get the entertainment. And I had some requests one time for some country music and from a gospel tune, like in Sweet By and By or something like that. So you do that, and then you get another request, and all of a sudden I realize the songs that I'm picking out are Angels Among Us and the Sweet By and By, and everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to go now, and I'm getting depressed, These people are going to be checking out. Wrong music. Know your audience.
Absolutely, that's right. And if you do nursing homes and you haven't danced or you haven't heard Jerry Helt's sticks on sit dancing by the Beginner Dance Party Leader Seminar, where Jerry's portion of it, because he does that. It's a fabulous thing. In nursing homes, that's sit dancing. Excuse me, not sick dancing. Sit dancing. Thank you, Jerry, for it's a fabulous piece, and it's a fabulous thing to have in your toolbox, particularly if you're doing nursing homes. Okay, he did it at the Beginner Dance Leaders Party Seminar. Any other comments? We're just about ready to break for lunch, and there's nothing wrong with going a couple minutes early to lunch. We want to thank you for coming out, and we enjoyed being here. How about a nice hand for Randy Dougherty, Tom Miller? Thank you, Jerry. Thank you,
Mike Seastrom for being our moderator. Thanks, Mike.
Enjoyed it, guys. Have a great rest of the convention, okay? Thanks.